Hey team, welcome back to another great episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell. Today I'm joined by Don Sutton with Tiger-Sul Products. Don, thanks for taking the time to be here today. This is going to be fun.
Glad to be here, Mark.
Yeah, man. Talk to me a little bit about intention for you. What does it mean for you to be intentional?
To be intentional, I went back and looked it up in Webster's dictionary to make sure I was answering it correctly, and it said one of the things it said is done by design.
Mm,
I'm a person that likes to build things in my spare time, so I understand designs and having a process. And so I think what intentional as a leader to me would be is setting clear goals, setting expectations, and then making sure you're putting those expectations into action.
mm. Well, first of all, thank you for being intentional enough to take the time to go look up that part of the definition. I love that done by design. Kind of to me, when you say something is done by design, that means somebody took a step back, they thought about it before they launched into it. Right? They're actually they're paying attention to where they're putting their intention.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you think about when we break that down into clear goals and clear expectations and clear vision and things like that, do you ever find in your leadership experience, do you ever find it challenging to get your people or team members to take the goals as seriously as you do?
Sometimes I do, uh,
Yeah.
but through discussion with team members, understanding that goals lead us uh, to the end result that we're trying to achieve, which would be hitting sales targets, which might uh, in turn lead to bonuses. There's a reason you set those goals so that it gives you a roadmap of how to get to your destination.
Yeah. I agree. I know there's a reason for it, and like from an intentional leadership standpoint, we're sitting here saying, hey, like, okay, here's the goal, like here's the pathway. Let's work that problem backwards. And one of the reasons I think this conversation or these types of conversations are so important is because coming through our programs over the years, and I'm talking thousands of people, and many of them, a good percentage, certainly over half of them, salespeople over the years can't really explain how they're going to get paid, right? Like they might know their comp program, but they can't show me a true roadmap about how they're going to get there. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think one thing we've done at Tiger-Sul is we've tried to be, I'll say, very intentional about
Yeah.
explaining our our programs, our bonus programs and our goals. I would say we simplified our goals so
Mm-hmm.
that it it is based on sales. We've removed most of the other goals that we might have had. I'd say when I first started at Tiger-Sul, and just focused and being very intentional that you hit your sales goals. That's how we get paid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Well, so with your business in mind and the work that you're doing in mind, what's working for Don these days as it pertains to finding good people, attracting and retaining good talent?
So I would say um, what we've done at Tiger is we have a uh, we really empower our salespeople. They uh, I manage a team of 9 people, three of them in Canada, six in the U.S. So each of them have a very large territory. I just ask them to run their territories as if it was their own business. Um, they I don't micromanage them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they know what they need to do. They're professionals. We've been able to retain our sales team now. One of our one of our sales guys in California has been with us for over 25 years.
Wow.
Most of our sales team has been with Tiger from between 6 to 8 years. We haven't had to hire a new person in 2 years. Um, but we did grow business enough that we hired a new person 2 years ago. We really took our time when we did that hire to make sure we were looking for the right person. The person fit the position, and then bringing that person on. As far as retaining them, I would say I had a onboarding process that was extensive. You know, it went almost a year in time to make
Wow.
sure that he got all the help he needed to be successful in his job. So
So in that onboarding process, then walk us through that a little bit if you can, or at least any parts of it that you can. So is there just is it a lot of product training, sales training? What's the what goes into that extensive onboarding?
so I would say the first week I spent with the person. Luckily he lived here in Ohio as well, so that made it easy to spend
Mm-hmm.
that time with them. But yeah, spent the first week one one talking about product, but then also about our customers. And, so that the first time he walked in to meet a customer, he'd already heard about them.
Mm,
He had a good background of who our customers are. Um, and then spending a few weeks traveling territories with that person. And then I would say at the 1 and 3 month mark, just following back up on the same things again. What's your questions now on product? Because now you've worked with them for a few months, and
mm-hmm.
you're starting to understand them. Let's go more in depth on product. Same thing with customers. Let's go more in depth on the customer, on the company, expectations, answering whatever questions they had.
Hmm. Wow. So I have two questions on this. The first one is during that process, how much of Don's time goes into curating that experience for him? Because I'm hearing there's a fair amount of ride-alongs going out to introduce him to customers, introduce him to I mean, really going with that person. So you're being very intentional about spending a lot of time getting them up to speed, introducing them to people. How much time does that take versus all the other things? Because you still have 8 other reps to take care of.
Sure. I would say it did take a fair amount of time.
Mm,
If I had to, that first week, I would say it took a majority of my time. If I go past that, probably the 30% of my time the first over
mhm,
the first month or so.
mhm.
That number started backing down, and within a few months, it was probably the same amount of time that I might have spent with other account managers.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And then the reason I ask to go deeper on that is because I want to highlight for people like what the level of intention can be or gets to be at the onset of bringing someone new in like that in order to set them up for success. What I commonly see is people putting in the minimum amount of effort to bring someone on because they have so many things like we're growing so fast, we have so many other things going on that we don't have that 30% of my time to allocate to the new guy or gal that's on the team, right?
Right.
And but I pay for that down the road, right? So when I'm not
Yeah.
intentional up front, this is what I like. What I always say is like when I'm all the times in life, I've become the most resentful of the situation, of the employee, of the growth, of my time, of whatever. All the times I've become the most resentful are because of the times in life I was the least intentional. So when I'm not intentional up front, I'm gonna have to be forced to be intentional on the backside, which turns into resentment because now you're forced to do it, right? You're coerced to do it by your previous decisions.
Correct. Yep.
So, okay. So my other question around that though was during your onboarding, I'm curious, do you have any triggers set in place where the person has to be performing at a certain level, right? Or we make a decision to go another way. And I'm curious if there's a like we brought somebody on earlier in 20 last year and we had a 90-day trial. Okay. And we got 75 days into the trial and it was very obvious this person wasn't going to work. So I had to make that tough decision. I'm glad I made it because I'd be paying for it. I would have paid $50,000 for that decision by now instead of the 15 it took to have them for 90 days, right? Um, or more, but anyway, I'm just curious what that looks like in your world, and do you have that built in?
Yeah, we had a plan of what was going to occur over the first month, the first 3 months, as far as travel plans,
Mm-hmm.
the number of customers that needed to be seen. Uh, we had plans of uh, which of our facilities that he was going to travel to so he could go and actually see our product being produced. Uh, Actually writing with one of our other account managers so that he could meet one of them and see how they do their job
Mm-hmm.
was all part of his, I guess, triggers that we had. I think we knew right away we had the right person, so that wasn't a concern going forward.
Good. Awesome. Well, it's nice when it works out.
Yep.
It's nice when it works out. And the reason I ask about that specifically is we've had a number of people on the show talk about having different, kind of that 90-day interview, where we bring someone on, we think they're going to be the person, but we put them in the role and we give ourselves the ability to, we give them the ability to say, hey, do you want to keep going? Let's go. Hey, if not, cool. We're paying you to come here and interview for 90 days. And now we get to go our separate ways. And I think there's a lot of intentionality in being able to do that. But I love the intentionality that you're putting into, onboarding that new person into your team. What do you do to try to build culture within your team? So you got a big team spread out across North America.
Yep.
How do you go about building culture within your group?
Sure. So we do a meeting every 2 weeks on a Friday. We call it our sales success call, and we do it on online conference call. Everybody turns their cameras on. We want to see each other. We because we are only going to be in person a few times a year, so it's great for team building to have your cameras turned on, and then we talk. And when we first started doing it, our meetings were 30 to 45 minutes. Now they go easily an hour and a half most times.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll start off the meeting just talking, you know, whose sports team won over the weekend, or,
Sure.
what's happened through the week, or, something going on with family. So that's one thing that we do. We try and do 2 in-person meetings a year. One is
Hmm.
a sales meeting that we usually have in January. And at that meeting, we do a lot of team building activities, uh, things that we can go out as a group and do. And then also we do a meeting in June. And in the past, we did a couple of them that were more regional. But the past 2 years, we've started moving towards doing one meeting where we can have our entire team together, because I just feel that it builds that team, uh, the team much better than having some smaller regional meetings. Our guys also call each other and talk to each other. Like you said, they're across North America, so each of their territories are different.
Hmm.
But there are similarities, and there's challenges that they're all going through. So that I encourage them, if they have questions or things going on, to call one of their colleagues.
Hmm.
Uh,
Good. Awesome. I love that you got the cadence for getting people together. We've got the cadence for the virtual meetings, right? And I think those are all things that play into that intentional piece, but also just, I mean, incorporating personal conversation, your sports teams, the banter. We used to have, we would do like a fantasy football league just for the team, at different times, or do a bracket for the NCAA tournament, right? That's coming up, and
yeah.
have some sort of a competitive environment and in internal prize and things like that, which could be really cool. So good. Well, so Don, from from your perspective, I'm actually really curious about this because you're one of the first people I've interviewed that recently went through one of our programs. You got to come to the Thriving Leader program in Nashville here a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So interested in your take in how that has assisted or caused you to think differently about the role and how that was how that's playing into your intention.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Mark, great event that I attended in Nashville. Uh, really gained a lot of insight from that meeting. You know, I thought I was coming in and to just a sales training, but it really got me to take a deeper look at myself, um, my life personally and professionally, and
Mm-hmm.
and provided a lot of tools to help me understand some things that I'm working on in my life, and then also in my job, the way I approach my team, um, you know, some goals, some challenges that I think we all go through in business, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a great event for that I took away from it. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Leadership doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, it's like I said, it's like we say at the event, and wherever you go, there you are, and we have to take a good solid look at like, well, how are you doing?
Yes.
And our ultimate goal is to develop more thriving leaders that are asking their teams those questions and rolling that out and allowing. We can't be there for every one of those conversations, so we need people like you now having that conversation with your team, and then they have that with their teams and their customers and so on and so forth, and we up level the industry as a whole over time. But appreciate you saying that, and it's an important piece to really understand. Hey, it doesn't seem like a normal training, right? But when you understand the methodology is we're going deep with that individual and trying to give the company back, give that family back the next best version of that person, of that leader, who's
Right.
thriving from the inside out. um, and then everything else just works better.
Sure. Yeah.
Now we can go do sales training, right? Now we can go do manager training. Now we can go do, right, culture building, team building, those kind of things on top of it. So cool. What have you been reading these days that you think would be really valuable? We've had great book recommendations. Just curious if there's anything that you're like, hey, this book has really impacted me, and I think people should take a look at it.
Well, this one that I read, um, rec I won't say recently, it's been a couple years ago, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the Speed of Trust
Oh
by
yeah,
Stephen Covey.
yeah.
Um, our company president gave everyone in our company one of these books several years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
talked about the Speed of Trust. And we actually went through this book as a sales team, and um, did broke down each chapter and how it relates to our jobs. And it's something that's really helped our company, uh, establishing trust from, whether it's between myself and my boss, or whether it's between myself and account managers, even our customer service people read this book as well. So it helps us to know that if I've got an order that I need to place to into one of our customer service representatives, I know that they know how to do their job. They're going to get my order placed and find a truck for it, get it out the door as fast as they can. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so this element of trust throughout our company has been uh, something that has really helped with our culture and our just how we do business every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Well, I love that book, Speed of Trust. Also, I mean, Stephen Covey also wrote, his first really big book was Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Right.
And so when I recently was listening to a podcast and I heard somebody who had been with him from the very beginning of kind of that company starting to really explode, was telling the story. It took him 10 years to write Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
It's so interesting. I didn't realize that either. But when you think it's still a top selling book, the Franklin Covey programs are still top selling programs in the personal development, industry and the corporate, business development space. And so it really goes to show you that, he's in integrity. He was very intentional with his work.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. I think so many of us often are, we think about how do we win today, right? We're measured by the winning the month, winning the quarter, right? Winning the year,
Yep.
hitting budget for the year. And so we don't often get time to just sit back and reflect on being really intentional and just allowing this thing to curate,
Right.
right? Like it's kind of like we talk about at our event. We talk about leading indicators versus lagging indicators. We're always chasing that lagging indicator,
Right.
and we're not
Definitely.
paying attention to the leading ones that are going to make us long-term successful.
Yep.
So, what, Don, over the course of your career, what's been a big challenge, a mountain that you've had to climb and overcome? I know people always love to hear the stories and some of the things that we go through. Just curious what that is for you.
I would say the first part of my career I spent as a golf course superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a golf course superintendent and an assistant for about 17 years. So I actually got to build two really great golf courses, country club golf courses here in the central Ohio area.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2008, I changed directions and went into sales. So, I spent the next several years, trying to establish myself into the sales side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I transitioned from more of a golf salesperson into agriculture. So the last I guess 12 years or so I've been back into
Right.
the ag market, which is really where I grew up and
Mm-hmm.
farmland in Ohio. So I would say my career, took a big turn at that point and had to reestablish myself and find my way
Yeah.
into a different market.
Yep. Wow. That's wild. So wow, it seems like such a left turn to go from working in the golf course business, which I think for so many people, that's like a dream job, right? I mean, being out there like on the greens, taking care of this golf course, keeping this thing curated, and then making the shift to sales, right? So what created that for you?
Um, I was just ready for a change.
Yeah.
That part of it was driven by the economic housing crisis in 2008. So a lot of downsizing happened in the golf industry at that point.
Okay,
Um,
sure.
so, so I found myself um, being helped to make that change. So,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
but
Life
yeah,
presents
so
you with the opportunity, right?
right, life gave me the opportunity to do something different. So, but I embraced it and I jumped right in and went into sales, and I've loved it ever since.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I love it. Well, that's great. What's over the course of your time, what's been one of your big wins?
Um, a big win. I would say, you know, it, I've been at Tiger-Sul now 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
almost 9 years. I started with them as an account manager. I've been sales manager now for almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been great to be able to lead a sales team. Some challenges there. I mean, I was an account manager, so all the guys I used to work with, I'm now their boss, their leader. So that brings some challenges, but a great group of people that I work with at Tiger-Sul.
Mm-hmm.
I've had fun with this company, and we've done some really good things, and we've got some good plans in the future to continue to grow our business.
Awesome. Great stuff, man. Well, Don, before we bring it in for a final landing here, any last thoughts that you'd love to share with the group about intentional leadership from your perspective?
It's just I think as I thought about intentionality, and it's here we are, it's almost the end of February, but I think every year at the beginning of the year, I try to be very intentional about
Mm-hmm.
what are my goals going to be for the new year, and set those goals evaluate, what did we do well the previous year and what do we need to improve going forward?
Mhm.
What can we do to help us hit our goals in the new year? And then I think I look at that weekly and monthly, and like I said earlier, hard to believe it's almost the end of February now. Um, but setting that, for me, managing a very large territory, I do have to look ahead, because I need to know where I'm going to be traveling a couple of months from now, uh, so that I know what I need to get done this week and the following week to set
Mhm.
all of those business opportunities up.
Yeah. That's got to be one of the biggest challenges, right? And I know just based on my own experience and now having interviewed 60 plus people on this topic, the looking ahead, taking intentional time to look ahead and plan and look at where things need to go on the calendar, understanding the business cycles, understanding all the things that can get in the way of decision making because whatever or market volatility and different all the different things, right? Like what a challenging role. So you really have to be intentional and look out and think about, okay, what do I want to be experiencing?
Right. So yeah, you've got to look at all the reports you're getting on a daily basis, that
Mhm.
from inventories to production to looking at forecasts for sales that should be coming in and making sure that all of that's covered. Um,
Mhm.
the events, the conferences, the travel with account managers that need to be done.
Yeah.
All of the other emails that come in that you have to decide which ones you're not even going to open. You can't get distracted by everything else that's going on around you, because there is a lot of the distractions that can drain your time. So you got to remember what your intentionality is and stay focused to
Mhm.
what your plan was.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great final thought, and I think we'll bring it in there. But I just want to review a couple quick things that we talked about. Don had a great definition, I thought, of intention, which is done by design. What a great definition! Just done by design. It's deliberate, it's distinct, it's all the things really that go into what we think makes a good intentional leader. It's a great overview, at least, and so Don's got a big team but he still spent a lot of time being very intentional about onboarding the most recent new ad to the team. And that's something maybe you can't give 30% of your time, but you really have to be intentional of thinking about how much time can I allocate? Because if I don't do it in the beginning, then I'm going to end up losing that time unintentionally somewhere else.
Yep.
Something I want you guys to ponder, listeners to ponder as you think through this, as you listen to this. So, Don, it's been a great interview. Thanks for being on here. Appreciate your vouching for the Thriving Leader program, and everybody else listening in. By the time you're listening to this, you should be registering for the August 21 and 22 2024 event in Kansas City. That's our next public Thriving Leader event. You guys should come down there and come hang out, come check it out. So get in touch with the team, figure out how to get to more of that. Other than that, until next time, thanks for being with the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. Thanks for being here, Don.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great day.